What's up, my people? Welcome to another episode of the Can Be Broken podcast, where we are shining light on the darkness that is domestic violence and abuse. If you've never been here before, welcome to the show. We got 3 simple goals to educate, empower, and encourage. We are here to educate anyone who has never been in an abusive relationship, don't understand abusive relationships, why people go, why people stay. We're going to find out. We are here to empower all of our survivors to stand up and share your story without shame, fear, guilt, or judgment, because you are strong, you are powerful, and your voice deserves to be heard. And to anyone who is currently suffering in silence right now, listen, you are not alone. You are not crazy. Abuse is not normal. Your feelings are valid. And despite how it may look and feel in this very moment, there is always a way out. And we encourage you to safely seek support. Now, y'all know what it is. We about to hop up in this thing because we about to rise above these insecurities, release the burdens of shame and guilt, and revive our God-given power, purpose, and passion the confidence way. So we about to light it up. Okay, y'all know what it is. Another awesome episode, and I have another amazing guest I'm super excited to introduce to you, to have this conversation with, because I just know it's going to help somebody in some kind of way. Y'all, welcome to the show, Miss Alyson. Pew, 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 pew. Alyson, my sister, how are you doing today?
I'm amazing and so grateful for the amazing day that we've got here today.
Oh my gosh, because I'm looking at your backdrop and I'm like, man, it's good. Y'all got some amazing weather. It is good. It just looks so refreshing. I love it. Well, I just want to say thank you, starting off, for just agreeing to have this conversation with us, because there's so many times that so many people have gone through so many things that no one in their family knows about, no one in their friend circles knows about. And I believe that when we hold on to these secrets, we're only setting up the next generation for failure, because
Exactly. Yep.
we're not letting them know that it's not an isolated event, or this isn't something that should be normal, but it happens more often than not. And then they go out there thinking mom and sister and auntie and everybody was fine, and they weren't.
Yep.
They weren't. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My first question is, when you were growing up, had you ever experienced or remember witnessing any kind of abuse in the family or in the neighborhood, whether it be verbal, physical, or mental, or anything like that?
I guess this is where it's really interesting. Like when you're in the moment, it's so normal. You don't think anything's going on. But then, like as an adult now, you look back and you go, hang on, there was a lot of yelling at home. Like you felt like you were walking on eggshells, that there was always someone, I guess, who had that position of power and dominance. And like you look back now and go, hang on, that probably wasn't the healthiest relationship. Like I grew up and it was very much like I was in the designer home. Don't put a foot wrong. Don't do this. This is the adult space. Don't go in this lounge room. So it was, so that was really hard growing. And now I look at that and it was like, how much control was that was really put around the way I had to behave, the way I had to do things? And like, because that was just the normal. And then I started questioning it a bit once my kids were around. It's like the kids weren't allowed to touch anything. And then different standards came with other family members. And it was like, why is it, this isn't normal? But I guess even then, like, you didn't really put a word on it, because everyone talks about abuse or violence and it's got to be violent. And it's like, but how is making you sit down, not be allowed to touch this, not allowed to go in this room, everything's fancy on display, you've got to follow this routine? How is that not normal when that's all you've been exposed to?
Oh, that's a good one right there, because we don't talk about how generational parenting is transferred to the next generation. I was just having this conversation with one of my friends like a week or so ago, and she's one of those really, really strong people, and she was raised by her mother, who was a strong person, and her mother had she and her sister raised in such a way that we don't ask for help. Even if we need help, we don't ask for help. We figure out how to get it, and if we can't figure out how to get it, we just go without. And so she's going through something right now, and she has this I don't want to be a burden type mentality to other people. And it's like, you're not being a burden to the people who love you and care about you and are willing to sacrifice, because she's somebody that sacrifices for everybody anyways. And I told her, I said, I'm learning now as a mother myself, as I look back on my childhood, just because our parents said or did certain things doesn't mean that's the only and right way to do certain things. And we have to be aware enough to realize that just because we experienced it doesn't mean we have to force our children to experience it and say, well, this is just the way it is, or this is just the way it was. We got enough good sense to know that, remember how we felt in that moment, and then say, well, do I really want to subject my child to that? So that's a good one, to even just like the level of control from a parent that's not a level of safety per se, or a level of teaching, but really, I have you as my child, I love you, but I don't want you doing this. Like, not allowing a child to be a child is tough for the child. So,
and very much, but it goes further than that. Like, I love what you said about those generational patterns and not wanting to ask for help. Like, I can remember being told all the time that, well, and this is talking about my nana at the time, that, well, she had to get a job and she had to do this and we had to do this. And it's like, you've got to step up. You can't ask for the help. It's, well, no one else is going to help you. If you don't do it, it's not going to happen. That you've got to be resourceful. You've got to be creative. You've got to accept that life is going to be hard and just deal with it. And then, as I said, I think that went on more to, as you say, that control and not having that freedom to be a kid and allow that mess, allow that noise. And sorry, everything's prim and proper and it's still there. And then I guess I noticed it more when my kids came along, grandkids came around, nieces and nephews, and how they were all treated so differently in the same environment. It was like, hang on, how is this healthy? Like, kids are designed to make mess, have toys, have noise, be outside, play with the paints, the Play-Dohs, the glitter and all that. So that's how they learn and experiment. And being told that that's not allowed was like, hang on, this is a really interesting perspective to, and it's not saying that it's like it's the extreme end of abuse, but I think this is where the patterns start to build, that we don't question things. We go, hang on, this doesn't feel comfortable for me. This doesn't seem right. Why have we got the inconsistencies? And looking at those actual patterns and going, like, was it a one-off? Or if it's a one-off, it could be nothing. But when it continues to repeat, going, hang on, this is a pattern, this is a cycle. How is that impacting everyone else? That you go, well, hang on, this probably is bordering more on the abuse rather than it just being a one-off. Because we all do things. We're humans. We all make mistakes. So we're going to have that one-off incident that we might regret or not be happy with. But that's okay, because that's what we learn from. But I guess if we continue to enforce that and make others live to that, that's when we are looking more into the abuse space.
That's good. And you mentioned something too, as you were talking, like, to be able to even have the space or the comfort to question it. Because I can remember, like, in my family, and it's not that I'm pretty sure it's more like this is how I was raised, so this is how I'm going to raise you type situation. But if you ask a question, we forget as adults that kids are not asking questions to be sarcastic, to be smart. They're literally asking questions at a certain age because they want to learn and understand. And a lot of times the answer was, because I said so, as opposed to giving a valid reason as to why I'm telling you not to do something or to do something. And having little kids is exhausting when they're asking a lot of questions. But as the adult, we have to have the self-control and the responsibility to give them a safe space, because if we shut off that communication at a young age, when we want them to tell us stuff, they're not going to. So having that safe space for somebody to even say, well, why is it this way?
Again, we shut down their curiosity, their hang on, their whole body responding to go, well, hang on, this feels right or it doesn't feel right. That we're suppressing what our basic human needs of being able to, this is what I'm feeling. Why is this happening? Like, we are curious creatures that, yeah, it definitely, and then the flow on effect that into adulthood, when something comes up, it's like, oh no, I can't talk about that, or it shouldn't happen. And then that's why people do unfortunately get stuck in some really nasty and volatile situations, because they haven't been able to trust themselves. They haven't been able to go, hang on, this has happened. Is it right? Is it not right? What could I do differently? We're told to just ignore it.
Yes. Yes. And two, to piggyback off of what you're saying, like even with having the safe space to ask the question why, I think that it triggers the adult who has the trauma that they've never healed from, or they just don't really know because they passed on that generational parenting or habits. It triggers them to get into defense mode, and then that could be like, well, because I said so. Like, why are you questioning me? Because if they sat down and thought about it, it's like, well, why am I telling you you can't do this? Or what is it that I'm holding on to from my past that is triggering me to be aggressive to you when you're just asking a simple question out of curiosity? So when you were growing up and you had that structure and you had that control as far as this is a clean room, don't do this, don't do that, do you feel like there was a single parent like your mom or your dad was more controlling as regards to their relationship together or their relationship with you or your siblings?
I have to say it was probably mum who had the control, and I think she probably had to step up because like dad used to own his own hardware, and I remember they ended up losing that and going bankrupt. So that was probably where things really shifted. Like his whole sense of purpose and need and being able to provide for a family was lost. He'd had the business and it always had an amazing kind heart, wanting to help everyone. All right, well, I'll let you off here. I'll make sure you're paid, rather than prioritizing himself. So I guess that's possibly where mum had to step up. But as I said, it was like from her mum that had to start working from a very young age and provide everything for the family because her dad had left. So I think, as you say, it's that whole pattern that had come up. The male had left, wasn't there. And then that repeated that dad lost a job or business. Therefore, mum had to step up and had to do a lot more. So her way of trying to keep that all in control was exactly that, having the house in order, having everything in its place, and having to do all those things. And like, there's no fault of that. Again, that's her coping strategies. That's what she knew at the time. And as you say, she probably didn't know any better. And I guess this is where I'm really grateful that we are here where we are today, that we're able to start asking these questions, that the conversations are starting to open up. And it's not just, will it happen, sit down, shut up, and that's what's got to keep happening. It's like, well, hang on, is that really serving us? Is it really helping us? Or is it causing more fractures in relationships and breakdowns in relationships, so that we can rebuild and we can have these healthier relationships and we can pass them on to our kids and their kids, especially because, and people quite often forget it, that hang on, we've gone through generations of real life experience before we're even born, because as that embryo in the egg or whatever, we're developing in prior generations. So people go, but you're only born now. No, we were physically present in our mum's body as they grew up in the uterus and here. So we've gone through so much before we actually come to being a human being on the world to start experiencing stuff. So we've got so much that's already come in, and then they've already had that. So they've got 2-3 generations of stuff they lived as they were developing, and it keeps getting passed on. So it's not a simple fix that it was, well, it only happened yesterday. It's like, no, this is 2, 3, 4 generations ago, and it keeps going back and back and back. And see, I think we're really grateful that we're starting to have these conversations and people becoming more aware to want to talk about it and raise it and go, well, how can we change things?
That's a good point that I never even considered, the fact that, I mean, we've always been inside our mom. That's something very, very, like, I just never thought of it like that. But yes, in regards to the generational habits and like we've experienced certain things as an embryo that you don't even think about, or even as a fetus, once you are fertilized and all of the things, you're not here outside of the womb, but whatever your mom is experiencing, you're literally physically, spiritually, emotionally feeling it. And so if your mother is in a bad situation while she's pregnant with you, you're being literally born or developed in trauma yourself. And
Yep.
so important that we take time to acknowledge that, especially as women who are in abusive relationships, even and are pregnant, even before the kid gets here, they're already absorbing trauma, even not physically reaching them from an abusive standpoint. If the wife or the mom is being abused in any manner, that energy is going to the child.
Yep.
Man. So in your household, your dad lost his job, your mom had to step up. Did you witness or experience any, because you said there was a lot of yelling, there wasn't any physical violence though, but it was a lot of emotional and verbal?
I think it was more very much that emotional and the yelling and that. Like, I don't remember any of the physical. Like, it was, I guess, generally a loving household, but there was a lot of the arguments and yelling about how do you make ends meet when you don't have a job. And obviously, I guess money's that necessary evil. We need it to be able to live, to pay mortgages and that sort of thing. So I think, but again, that's been so dismissed. Like, even up until now, like I did 15 years in the police, and an argument was just exactly dismissed that by police. It's just a verbal argument. It's not an offence. So I think we've had so much conditioning to go, yelling is normal, this is normal, that we don't actually question it. Like, even as a kid growing up, the good old saying, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. So we're trying to normalize it and trivialize this emotional abuse, the psychological abuse, the yelling that we experience, without actually going, well, hang on, how is it actually making our bodies feel? How is it changing that vibrational, the shift in the energy to have us in that fear state? Because that lasts with us a lot longer. Like, and I'm not saying that physical violence is the answer. We certainly don't want anything to escalate there. But even like an injury, if you break your arm, say you've fallen off a bike, that's going to heal in 6 weeks. But you still have the scar and the evidence of that break years and years down the track. So I guess you can physically measure that. Whereas the emotional stuff, the yelling, we don't actually have any physical markers to go, it happened. It's just in the body, it's trapped, and we don't always know how to express it.
We don't know how to express it. We don't, embarrassed or whatever it be, don't seek the help to learn how to express it or release it. And like you said, once that energy is trapped, it doesn't stop producing the shifts. It's just doing it in a confined space, which I believe that a lot of energy and the negative energy is what triggers and causes a lot of the physiological diseases that our bodies end up having, is because we're storing so much negativity inside and we're not releasing it in a healthy way. We're not addressing it. We're trying to suppress it. And the body is going to find a way to release it if we don't.
Definitely. I guess that's why they created the book. I can't even think who the author is. Like, The Body Keeps Score. Like, there's books that are written exactly about this, about how the body is keeping score of everything that's happened to us. That it's in science. It's not something that we're just making up and going, it happens. Like, and again, like they talk about our disease, like the discomfort in our body is all exactly that. It's because we're not at ease, we're not at flow, we're holding stuff in that shouldn't have been trapped in. We need to let it go.
Absolutely. So you grew up in a household where there's a lot of arguing, a lot of yelling. And when you're in that household, it seems that a lot of times that energy or that mindset or that normalization transfers to you into adulthood. And so we learn how to communicate. I mean, in all honesty, our parents are the first people who really teach us how to communicate. And if we're watching them, then we think that this is appropriate. And even if we don't think, because I'm around a lot of students now, even if we don't think that's appropriate, we still act in that manner because that's what we see and that's what we've learned. And we haven't been taught how to manage it and how to do it in a different way. I have a student and she came to school. I'm like, why are you? I was like, your energy is way too aggressive right now. And she's like, I'm this way because my mom's this way. And like, she's already like that. And she's 7th grade. And I'm like, I'm trying
Oh,
to
wow.
you can choose not to be like your mother. And I'm learning that a lot of times kids come to school and they get into fights, they get into these things because of the experience that they had on, like, just waking up. Some parents just wake their kids up angry. And it's like, wake me up out of my sleep peacefully, please. Don't come in here shaking and yelling at me. And then you wonder why I have an attitude. And so it's important for us to be intentional. If we're going to be somebody's parent, or be an adult, it's important for us to be intentional about managing our own responses and managing our own emotions and exercising self-control if we're going to expect that from a child. So do you feel like, from what you were raised around, do you feel like that aggression or that anger, your communication skills prior to where you are now, did you kind of adopt those same habits when it came to relationships?
I think, like, when you look back, yes and no. Like, but then yes, in like I'm very much the I'll keep it cool, calm, and collected. But then if you push and push and push me, I'll react and I'll explode. So it won't be all the time, but it's going to be that intense explosion that I've just lost my shit. I've got to get it all out of my system. It's like the volcano. Once it's out, it's gone, it's erupted. We're all back to normal. And I guess I'd seen that pattern that I'd made for a very long time, that I'd had to really reflect on what I was doing and why, and then be able to go, well, hang on, that's not healthy for me. It's not healthy for relationships. It's not healthy for my kids. So how do I manage that better? And being able to go, all right, someone's starting to push my buttons, or I've got to take a step back. I've got to see what they're doing. And I guess once you learn the patterns and see what's happening, you've got that choice. Either you keep repeating the patterns, or you go, I don't want to be this way, and you'll actually make the changes. And I think I was very much that I didn't want to keep making those patterns. I didn't want to keep having those cycles, that it was like, all right, yes, I've stuffed up. Again, it's a lesson in life. We don't always get it the first time. But once I could really see the patterns were happening and it was identified to me later on, it's like, all right, this is something I really need to change. Because I don't want my kids going, they've pushed me, something's been pushed, mum explodes, and then you try and put back the pieces. So I do know now that I handle things very, very differently to I did, whether or not it was 5 years ago, 12 years ago, even 12 months ago. Again, it's that evolution and it's an evolving process of learning and understanding and why we're doing things, what's happened, so we can make those changes to create more peace and that sort of thing. And like, as you say, with kids and being woken up, yes, they do very much feed off us, but we've got that choice to be able to show them different and go, well, all right, it's okay to get angry. And I think this is part of the problem, that we were never really taught to express those negative emotions in a positive way. So we suppressed them. So we had these explosions, whereas being able to go, look, it's all right to feel angry, but we need to express it in a way that's not going to hurt anyone else. And starting to do that a lot more makes a really, really big difference.
It really does, especially if you can get a hold of a child when they're young. Because I mean, the expectations that we put, I can speak for myself, the expectation that I put on my children, I have to go back and realize, like, I have to remind myself their age. Like, he's 5, he's only 4. What are we doing here? So that, like you said, acknowledging the habits and the patterns that we have, so that we can manage ourselves and then help them manage themselves. And that's very, very important. Like, if everybody could learn how to communicate, or learn truly how to control themselves when they're in a state of anger, we would really have a different world, completely different world. But we have the world we have, and we have people that we have to deal with. And so that's why we have this show, this podcast. We have to manage.
Again,
so it's what it is. Now, when you started getting into relationships, did you feel like you were finding yourself being attracted to men who were kind of like your father, or men who reminded you of your mom, or like, what did that look like? And when did you start noticing you were getting into unhealthy or toxic relationships?
I guess this is where it's really hard, that even in all the relationships, like looking back now, I never saw any of the red flags or anything. Like, even the first relationship I got, it was set up by my mum. And it was like, this boy is really, really good, which is really, like, I look back on it now, my mum always knew I wanted to have kids. So she set me up with a work colleague who had had a vasectomy at a very young age and had a daughter who was 12 or 13 at that time. And like, I look back at it now and go, that's a really interesting relationship for a mother to set a daughter up, knowing that she wants to be a mother. And obviously it did eventually escalate and became quite violent, got out of it, thankfully. But then even like the long-term relationship with my kid's dad, I don't think, and it was one of those relationships, like, we're both in the police, and I'd always been, I'm not going to get involved with another police officer, because there was so much, not that I'm trying to judge, but so many police had affairs, they cheated, there was no loyalty, because there is a lot of pressure and work, stress with being in the police. So I didn't want that, and actually admit, but it was really interesting, we both had the same ideals. We both did not want to get with someone else in the police. So I think that was sort of that starting point. And as I said, we'd worked together for a few months before anything happened. But we got along really well. We had very similar ideals and values, and even our life goals, everything was very much in alignment. And then, like, it was probably even after separation that I really realized how bad things were. And I think a lot of that was minimized, like, because the relationship I'd been in the police was 15 years. And as I said, in New South Wales at the time, over here in Australia, it was very much spoken about. You either had physical violence and offences like your sexual assaults, your common assaults, or up to your murder, or everything else was like a domestic violence, no offence, or verbal argument. So it was very much minimised that the yelling and those sort of things didn't happen. And I guess we didn't have the education that we really have now around like your coercive control, your manipulation, your gaslighting, blame, and projection. So I never saw any of it. I just thought it was all my fault. And it was when that I thought I was going to lose the kids that I actually went and saw a psychiatrist and said, they're telling me I've got borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, all these different names, and explained my story to him. And he's like, no, you like every other first responder. You've got complex PTSD. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, it's like all the trauma goes on and everyone's got their bucket and how much they can cope with. But even whether or not they recognize it or not, anyone who's working in that trauma response, where you've got a lot of trauma, a lot of stress, and that is going to eventually develop PTSD. It's like everything. It depends on how much it affects you. And I was like, oh, wow. So I guess not that it mitigated what was happening, but it made me understand myself a little bit more about what was going on. But again, that was something I've later learned, that that's a really common thing in abusive relationships, that they do label you as having mental health issues, that you're psychotic, that you're crazy, to minimize and project from what they're doing onto you so no one's going to believe you. And then it was like, oh, wow, that actually happened. So I'm very, very mindful, and especially what I do, is that I don't label anyone. I don't like labeling people. It's like, let's describe the actual behavior that's happened and how it's made someone feel, and then look at the patterns and see what's happened from that. Because then we can actually paint a picture. And like the good old buzzword that's probably coming out here everywhere is everyone's a narcissist. Everything's narcissistic abuse. And so what does that actually mean? It's great to have this label, but in courts it doesn't mean anything. Like, it doesn't actually address what's happening so we can keep people safe, we can change things, or we can hold people accountable. So I think that's where it's really interesting looking at that, to go, well, hang on, what have I done? And obviously my upbringing and everything I've experienced makes me give so much, trying to almost buy someone's love. And it's like, oh, I've got to do this to have that healthy relationship. And then, as you said before, once I see it, I can't unsee it. And then people don't like that once you start to change and go, look, I've given so much, I can't do it anymore. And then they start to shift to change, and it's like, oh, it's your fault, and oh, you've impacted my mental health. And you sit back and go, hang on, these patterns are repeating again. So I think every day, every relationship is going to be that teacher to show us something different, to help us actually heal so we can break those patterns and cycles. And like some people, as you said, doesn't matter what you tell them, are always going to be angry, aggressive. It's always going to be everyone's fault. But there are going to be people who want to go, hang on, I've yelled at my wife, or I've yelled at someone, or I've been aggressive. I want to change that because I don't want to keep passing on these negative patterns, or I've been treated this way. I don't want anyone else to treat, that are actually going to make that change. And I think the more conversations we have like this is how we're actually going to get that change.
I agree. So keeping on target with the father of your children, you guys met on the police force. And then, like, did you meet, and then about 3 or so months, y'all kind of just started hanging out? Like, how did that go? And what was it like when y'all first decided, well, we might be interested in each other? Was he nice? Was it like, because y'all had a lot of things, ideals in common, a lot of commonalities. How was the energy in the very beginning between the two of you?
I think, like, as I said, we worked together for 4 months and worked quite closely together. That when we actually connected, which was over a Christmas party, again, not the best time because everyone's drinking and whatever else, it was that real, like, we'd both spoken about what our thoughts were and how we didn't want to get involved with other police for that. And there was that real connection, that we had that understanding of what each other wanted. We understood where we wanted to go. So I think that actually really intensified things. And like, I look back, it was very intense. It moved very, very quickly, from when we've gone, all right, we're going to date, to when we started living together and things like that. And again, this is something like, I'd end up buying a house. He was commuting for work, so I invited him to come and live with me. It's like, I'm living here in a house, you're staying at a police station overnight. That doesn't make sense. We're together. So I guess that probably, like, reflecting back, you sort of go, December to February, it's a very quick time to move in with someone that you've only sort of known for 6 months. But again, I didn't see back then. You sort of look at, well, was that really an issue? Especially like when I compare it to the relationship before that. Like I was on holidays and my mother signed a lease for me to move in with this bloke.
Wait. So the guy, okay, so let's put your children's father on pause. The guy that your mom set you up with, who had a child already and then had a vasectomy, she signed a lease for you while you were away. How old were
I was
you?
in New Zealand. Would have been 2021. So 21.
You were 21 years old. You were away, and your mom's like, I got this guy who I think would be really good for you, even though he can't have children. And I know you want children. He's just a good guy. I'm going to set y'all up. And then basically, when you come back, y'all are going to be living together.
Yep.
No. Was your mom set up with your dad, or did they kind of meet naturally and
No, they met naturally. So, which is why I guess it's really bizarre. And like, I probably haven't spoken about this before because it's one of those things that just happened and you sort of didn't question it at the time. But now I look back at it when I've gone, hang on, like looking about their own relationship, moving in with someone, I was like, hang on, I did this and did this. Wonder where that came from. Oh, look, hang on, that's what happened years earlier. That I was just, here you go, you're going to live together.
did you even know him before y'all, like, did y'all even know each other before you 21 and moved in?
Oh, we'd known I couldn't remember how long we'd known each other. Like mum had worked with him and knew him probably better than I did. And we had sort of met and obviously we're talking and dating at that point. But looking back, I was very quiet, shy, reserved. Like it wouldn't have been something that I would easily quickly jump at.
How old was he?
Probably 26, 27. So 5, 6 years older than me, I think.
And he didn't, okay. How does, I can't, my brain is on pause right now. How did that even go? You come back, I imagine you're shocked and you're like, hold on, wait, I'm doing what now? And how does your mom even, I have so many questions. How is it even legal for your mom to sign a lease for you?
Well, it's not. But and again, this is the thing. Like I look back now and go, like the first time I ever moved out of home was when I went to the academy. So I'd finished school and went to the academy, moved out of home, and then moved back home. And it was almost like, all right, you're old enough now. We're pushing you out the door. So that's like looking back, that's exactly how it felt. It's like you've had you long enough. I've met you someone. Here, your problem. Go and do that. So like I'd never known how to, like I could do the basics at home, like sort of look after myself, washing, that sort of thing, but cooking and things like that were definitely not skills. So again, it was very much a throw in the deep end and go and learn life skills.
At 21 with a young 26-year-old. So what was that like when y'all first moved in together? Did y'all have good energy? Was it a lot of strife? Like, how did that even go?
Like it's really hard looking back. I think there were a lot of differences. Like he was a bit of a drinker, I wasn't a drinker, and that ultimately is what came to the demise. That drinking became a big problem. Drug use became a problem, which obviously increased aggression and that sort of thing. But yeah, I try and look back and I go, it's almost like I've had to block out the whole period. Like I've got glimpses of that's where the bed was. I remember having friends over one night for dinner, but I don't remember too much of this period.
Wow. Do you remember how long y'all stayed together?
It was probably 12 months, 18 months. Like it wasn't a huge relationship, but like I know we had his daughter every second weekend. So at 21, I was looking after a 13-year-old.
I
Or
am
however old she was. Like,
Since you're the woman of the house, he had higher expectations for how much time, energy, and attention you gave his daughter than he had for himself.
yeah, he didn't want his daughter.
What? So was her mother forcing her to go over there with him?
It was one of those, well, it's your weekend, you've got to take her sort of thing. So she must not have been 13. She must have been 6 or 7. I can't remember how old she was because I was only 21 and he was 20. So yeah, he was a very young dad. Like I think he was only 18 or 19 when I had her. So she might have been maybe not 13, 6 or 7. I'm probably getting confused with my daughter being 13 now. So yeah, coming into it, here's a free-made child for you.
That's a lot. That's you're on holiday and you come back to a ready-made family that you have to live with.
Yep.
That's wild. Was he or did you know about the drug use prior to y'all moving in, or did that kind of start when y'all moved in?
Drugs definitely came later. Like it's like everything. You at that age, most people have a drink here and there, but it definitely progressively got worse and worse. And like it wasn't just a drink here or there; it was to the point that you were completely wiped out, and not the happy drunk, the angry drunk came out.
Yeah. Was he physically violent, or was it mostly a lot of anger, intimidation, verbal, and mental abuse?
Probably more. I think it became physical, and that's why I ended up having to call quits with it. It was a massive safety issue. But leading up to that, it was more the emotional, the psychological, and the guilt tripping. Oh, you've got to sort of do this. And
well, thank goodness you got out of that before it got really bad. So y'all didn't even get married. You were just living together.
yep.
That's when
Which is like, but it gets better. Which looking at it now, I can see the hypocrisy of it. Like I was brought up in the Catholic Church. So very, very strict. We were going to church every Sunday. You don't have sex before marriage. You don't live together before marriage. Like obviously not that I stepped aside from the Catholic Church, but 11 and 12 is when I changed schools from a Catholic school to a non-Catholic school, but still continue going through church. And like I look at that about how I was brought up and how these values were very big. You don't do that, like you're completely frowned upon. To then look at the situation I was put in, and it's like, what had happened that I didn't question it? Whereas I look at it now and go, are you an idiot for not saying anything back then? And I guess it's probably why I'm very different and I'm very much more open with my kids and not that as I said, they're all still under 18, but not pushing them out. But it's about giving those skills and confidence and talking about healthy relationships and giving that the independence to be able to make decisions for themselves because of what I experienced. That well, until now, I had not spoken about it, not even put the connection together of what was going on and how crazy it was.
That because I was on track to what you just talked about, because I'm thinking the way you talk about how your mom raised y'all, we didn't even have to get into the religion part. I'm like, she's okay. That's why I asked if y'all were even married, because for your mom to put you in that situation without the expectation of you being married, that's just, I wonder what was going on. Well, you said it. You said she was just, you came back, we've had you, now go do something else. Hey, by the way, you can do that with him. That's still so bananas to me. That's bananas. Wow. So you're there a year. And then, I mean, were y'all in a lease together? Did y'all have to both leave the place? And then like, how do you even end that situation?
So I basically moved out and he stayed there. And what he did after that, I don't know. It was like, and again, it became a shit fight because it happened to be around my sister's birthday at the time. So asking for help, and that's been held against me. You ruined her birthday because you asked for help. And it's like, I wasn't safe. I've asked for you to come and help me. And it still gets thrown against me that I destroyed her 18th birthday and her 21st birthday for these reasons. And it was like, obviously we've got very different recollections of it, but I think that really highlights how we're not meant to be talking about it. It's meant to be, that's your problem, go and deal with it. That a celebration and a party where we're going to get drunk and whatever else is more important than a child's safety. So again, like you look at it then and you sort of question it and go, oh, okay, maybe I did do that. And now I sit back and go, as a parent, how could you not be there and be willing to support a child who's gone, I'm in an abusive relationship, I need out, and you silence them and not want to step up?
This is why people don't speak up. I mean, there's already the shame of staying after the first incident and you're aware of it. So I mean, physically it's easy to be ashamed after staying after the first physical abuse. It's hard when it's mental and emotional because it's a ongoing snowball effect and you sometimes don't even see it happening until you're under an avalanche. But the physical, and you stay, then you're ashamed. It's like, now do I, like, how long has this been going on? Do I ask anybody for help? I'm ashamed that I even stayed after it happened. And then to have the courage to ask somebody that's supposed to care about you, and this is what happens. People want to know why people don't leave. This is one of the reasons, because there have been so many times where someone has reached out to someone they thought they could trust it, someone they thought that loved them, and they don't have the support they need.
Yeah. But it goes further, and like looking at that, it really looks as why when I was in the long-term relationship and there was so much going on that I didn't tell anyone. Like I remember years of like, because with the police and obviously the diagnosis, I had a psychologist and psychiatrist on board. For probably 2-3 years, I was describing an abusive relationship to them. So much so that I actually ended up doing a 3-week inpatient for the PTSD to give myself space. That was part of that breaking the cycle to look after me. But I know in that time I didn't speak to anyone. And even leading up until separation after he'd left, I didn't say anything. So when I finally got a phone call for my birthday after we'd separated, it's like, what do you mean you separated? Why didn't you tell us? And it was like, I'd stopped communicating so much at anything and everything to anyone. But it was like, why am I going to tell anyone? Like, this seemed to be my own battle that I had to deal with myself and try and function with 3 kids at that point in time, that I didn't feel like I had those networks that I could go to and go, oh, by the way, we've separated now, or we've done this, or even what happened the whole way through. Like, and it's quite interesting that since I've started speaking up this year, this is the way family and friends are actually finding out what I've actually experienced, because they've listened to podcasts where I shared stories like this and they're like, holy, because there wasn't a place to talk about it. No one wanted to listen. And I didn't have a voice to be able to go, I can say this. I didn't have words to describe what was going on, how I felt that it wasn't normal, or someone to go to. So I didn't. Whereas now I'm at the point that it's going to come out, whatever questions asked, that the truth's going to come out and it's going to be shared, because I don't know who needs to hear this. And the fact that today's been the day that we're sharing it is the right moment that it had to come out.
Suffering in silence is a real thing. It is a real thing. And there are so many people who feel like you felt like, I don't have the community. And they believe that because, not just because they just believe it, they believe it because there are signs from the past, even if it was something really minor. They held on to that response, that reaction that they got when they did try to open up and they did try to share and they did try to seek whatever kind of support or help that they needed on whatever level. And the response was not to open up and say, I am your community, I am your tribe, I am your village, this is a safe space, we're going to figure it out together. It's exactly what you said. You felt like you had to figure it out on your own. So why even bother telling anybody? That's so unfortunate. And people don't understand. They don't understand that it's not as easy as just tell somebody and they'll get you out for everybody. There are so many people who suffer because they've tried on a lesser scale to share something that was uncomfortable, that didn't feel right, and they didn't receive, it wasn't received with the support that they needed at the time. So why would I think you're going to be able to support me when I really need you at this time?
Exactly.
Gosh. So how long did you and your kid's father, did y'all end up getting married?
Yeah, so we got married 2008, before our first was born. So yes, no, we got married, and again, even that was a drama in itself.
Well, before we
Like,
get,
we wanted,
hold on, how long were y'all together? Because you met in December, or you kind of met
so
before
we met in the December.
you got.
Yeah, so 2004 we got together and we got married in the May of 2008.
Okay, so y'all were together for living together for 4 years before y'all got married. And looking back on it now, do you recognize in those 4 years the abuse that you could have potentially not married into, or do you feel like you still didn't see it, so it was normal, or whatever you were telling yourself is why you ended up marrying him anyways?
Looking back now, I guess you can see those patterns, but at the time I definitely didn't see it. Like being told that you were going to get an engagement ring but couldn't because they crashed a car into a kangaroo and different things like this. And
Wait. So it sounds like at some point you were saying, "Hey, well, so we're living together now. Do you have any intentions of marrying me?" Is that kind of the energy that you're giving off at some point?
it must have been energy because I can't remember the actual conversations about it, but it came out after the fact that I was going to buy you an engagement ring on this shopping trip, but we hit a kangaroo on the way, so that didn't happen. So when he did decide to propose, I was given a twisty or a cheesel. So like the fat tubes, that was the engagement ring I was given.
Are you kidding me?
No. And I kept it for years. It used to sit on top of the microwave in a container. Everyone was like, "What's that?" And I said, "That was what I was given as an engagement ring." And then sometime after that, we actually went shopping for a proper ring.
And I'm not knocking anyone who can only give what they have, but I was on my way to get you an actual ring and we hit a kangaroo. I'm so sorry. I just can't even say this with a straight face. I was on my way shopping, darling, to get you a proper engagement ring. But on the way, we hit a kangaroo. And since we hit that kangaroo, there's no other days between then and now could I have gone to the store to get you a proper engagement ring. So please take this as my sign of love and devotion to you. Let's preserve it however you see fit. But will you marry me?
Pretty much.
And you said yes.
Yes.
Why did you say yes?
Well, I think because that's what I thought I wanted, and I thought that's the way things happened. Like I can still remember the day it happened, where we were because we were on a boat with his father, and we'd been at a nice secluded beach we'd sort of gone across to. But I think I was just so used to expecting that's what I needed, and whatever I was given is what I should expect to be grateful for it. But obviously looking back, it was like, hang on, I give so much and I give so much, and I didn't have any value or belief in myself that I thought anything was better than nothing.
That's that confidence and insecurity. Those devils. That's what I speak on a lot with my experience, is that I know looking back now, the reason I even ended up in a bad relationship is because of my insecurity. And like you just said, the not recognizing your value, so accepting anything that may look better than what you've been through in the past doesn't mean that is what's best for you. And my insecurities got me in an abusive relationship, and my insecurities kept me in an abusive relationship. And he was manipulating it in the way of, now that I'm out of it, I can see he would manipulate in the way of like not doing things for me, not doing things for me, not doing things for me. So when he does something that's absolute bare minimum, I have this gratitude that's like, I can remember. So we had our son right before, like literally right before everything shut down for COVID. We had him March 5th and then everything shut down. And I remember the end of that year, it was like the holiday time. And we were going to, like, he wasn't big on family. I'm big on family. A lot of issues. So he did a lot of stuff. Like if he did anything with family, it was to kind of like to show off, you know? So he decided we would go see his family in Georgia for Thanksgiving. And he's like, on the way on the way back, we can stop by to see your grandmother. And I was just so overjoyed and so thankful. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, you made me like, because I want to, like, my family has never seen my child, And it's like, I know in COVID and all of the things, but it was, you get to do this because we're doing this with my family. And the reason we're doing it is not because you even want to be there, but it's because you want to show off your new baby. And so I look back now and I'm like, wow, he would set me up he would say no for so many things. And I didn't even ask for stuff. Why even bother asking for anything? Because there's going to be a no. But then when you do something so bare minimum, and the only reason is because my grandmother's on the way back from Georgia to our house. Like, she's a hop off the interstate, go down the road, she's kind of thing. And I'm like, that's bananas. And I made it seem like he was doing something, like he rented me a private jet to fly me to Maldives or something. Oh my gosh. And so, like, the mental manipulation, like I said, like you said, it's you don't really see it's happening until it's happened. And then when you're outside of it, you can really see what's happening. So that's what the insecurities get us every single time. Not knowing your value every single time, not realizing that you're valuable. It gets you every single time. And we settle for less than what we deserve. We settle for anything that's better than nothing, or anything that's better than what we had. And that is not it. God,
yeah. And that's it. And but again, if you don't know, you don't know. Like, now that I can see it, it's like, hang on, I've got, and I wouldn't even say they're high expectations, but I know how I want to feel. I know how I want to be treated. And I'm not going to accept less from that anymore. And if people don't like that, that's something that's got to change. But it's exactly what you said. It's like you're the frog in the pond. You're being boiled really, really slowly. And, oh, here's a token. I will do this for you. I will do this for you. That you don't sit, you're so used to so much of nothing that when you get something, it's like, he's doing something for me. I'm treated like this queen, rather than, hang on, but every other day I haven't been. And really seeing those patterns. And I guess we don't talk about it enough to see that, hang on, no, that's not normal. A healthy relationship is give and take. You do things for everyone, and that it's not just, well, I'll do this because I've done this. But where what you're talking about, family, made so much sense, because family has always been really, really big for me. And this is probably one of the downsides with everything that I have experienced. I've pretty much lost all my family, and I was adopted. So I've lost, like, my biological mum, my biological dad, plus the adoptive family I grew up with. So I have become very isolated from everyone. I don't have everyone because of everything that was experienced.
wow. Wow. That's tough for sure. In the isolation thing, like, they know what they're doing, the isolation thing, so that even when you do get out, it a lot of times takes time for you to reconnect the bond that was lost for however many months or years that you were, gone, and it just didn't work. So 4 years in, he proposes with a kangaroo ring, and you say yes. How long after the proposal do y'all actually get married?
So that was the 2007. I think it was the May 2008. So about 12, just under 12 months since the proposal.
Okay. And he had a proper ring for the wedding?
Yes.
Did y'all have a wedding? Like, was your family
Yes.
invited?
Yeah, no, we had a big wedding. That was an interesting thing, because we wanted something small, low key. We wanted family and friends with us, but we didn't want it to be the big, everyone must sit down, everyone must be really formal. Like, we had the wedding at a lookout in nature, which is what we both really enjoyed. And then we went to, like, a community center where we had, like, a big open space and tables and a buffet, so people could actually interact and mingle, rather than being, we didn't want to be on display. And then that became a big issue with my mum, because my daughter, you're getting wedded, you're getting married, it should be, I guess it's like a lot of parents, they have a lot of expectations what they think the wedding should be, because it's for them rather than for their child, where the wedding we wanted was what we wanted. So having to stand strong on, well, this is what we want, we're doing it, did cause a lot of conflict in the family. And like, I look at it now that, and seeing others getting married, it's like, well, how much is for the child? How much is for the parent with this wedding? And it was like, okay, no, I can see that we were really, and that was one thing that we did really agree on. This is our wedding. This is what we wanted. And we did ostracize family because of that. But at least, like, I look back and I go, at least I stood firm on what I wanted. And I don't have regrets about the way the wedding actually happened, because it was what I wanted. It honored who I was, it honored us as a couple at that point in time.
So y'all have, it sounds like y'all have so many, like so many things in common, so many, like you're on the right track. What happened in the relationship that caused the separation and the divorce? Like how did things not work out?
Well, that, exactly what was the point that changed things is sort of hard to put. Could it have been a really traumatic incident in the police where we became isolated and he was told he couldn't talk to me as his partner? That was probably part of it. And then it was around kids. Was it family influence? I think, like, trying to put exactly the finger on what it was, because different things have been said at different times. But ultimately, the crux was he started cheating and justified it that I'm not cheating because we're only talking. I said, it's an emotional affair. You're spending more time and energy talking to this woman and asking her about your own kids than you are me or being involved in their lives. So that led to the first separation. And then we got back together. And then again, it was with a close friend who I'd provided accommodation with on our property so she could get out of a relationship where the partner at the time was growing pot in her house and she didn't want to impact her nursing. So they hooked up in front of the faces, in front of the kids, and he went off and moved in with her and her kids and abandoned his own 3 kids.
What?
Yep.
Now on the last episode last week, I had someone who would be in relationships and she would constantly be hooked up by mutual friends. And I was like, we using this term friend mighty loosely. Your friend who you helped out to keep her nursing license and career and everything, because who she was living with was doing things that were illegal and that would just ruin her career, accepts your invitation to your property, and your husband and your friend decide they like each other and he moves out.
After I put the ultimatum in place and basically said it's not working, because everyone had picked up that the relationship was going on between them in front of our eyes. I'd even confronted her about it and said, what is going on? And she sat there and said, I would never do that to you because that's what my husband did. He ran off with someone and I know how much it hurt me. After that, she wanted nothing to do with me.
Wait a minute.
And then they moved in together.
She did to you what someone had done to her.
Yes.
And she called you friend.
Yep.
I don't understand people. And like what you said the first time with the emotional affair, people either pretend they don't know how emotions lead decisions, or I just don't believe that adults who have been emotionally involved with people truly believe that an emotional affair is nothing, because that leads to that's how you get to the physical. A lot of times when you're trying to have a relationship with someone, or you're interested in even developing a relationship, you bond emotionally first. Being able to confide in one another and tell each other certain things and receive the support, the words of affirmation, all of the stuff that you need emotionally. That's what leads to the physical desires getting stronger. And then, oh my gosh.
Yep. But then it's even better. Then the day we'd had a women's circle the day after my birthday, and it was that night after that circle they decided to send me a lovely message. Oh, we're just going to be honest with you because we know honesty is the best policy, but we deserve to be happy together and we're going to start a relationship. And I'm like, radio?
While you're full blown married.
We were still married at this time. We'd been broken up 6 weeks.
So he moves out. He stops taking, does he even take care of the kids anymore? Or is he just completely, oh, what kids?
Yep, what kids? He had 2 normal kids with her.
Now, what now?
Well, her kids, and I'm not trying to have an offence or minimise disabilities, but our 3 kids have all got special needs. They're all on the autism spectrum. Her kids are no disabilities, no labels. So he was able to offload 3 kids that had special needs to 2 kids that didn't have any needs, that were like him, that wanted to go outside, wanted to do these things. So they played happy families.
How long after he moves out do y'all actually, you file the divorce paperwork and you get the process going? Like how long is that phase?
So you can do it at pretty much any time in Australia. It took me a while. So it was the July 2021 we separated, and it was the March 2023 that I finally sorted the divorce out.
So they have been living together for a year and a half.
He moved out in the June or the July into her house. So he'd gone from living with me in a house to living with her in a house. And then supposedly separated as we were going through property settlement in the November 23. So he couldn't have her as someone providing him support to try and make the financial settlement in his favour.
And then they re-established their relationship after the divorce was finalized?
Well, this is hard to tell exactly what's going on, because he still visits there when she's at work, like to pick up our son the other day. And I'm like, so is this relationship just ended because it was not in your best interest paperwork-wise to have it? Or what's exactly going on? And no one will answer any questions. So the only one that really knows, I guess, is him and her kids and my eldest.
What was it in your relationship with him, if you could omit the part about where he couldn't confide in you about the police business because you're a spouse, you can omit the struggles, I guess, with raising your children. What was it in your marriage to him? How was he emotionally or verbally or mentally abusive to you outside of the things that were just challenging for that would have been challenging for any marriage?
I guess that's where it's interesting. A lot of it was, I guess, that projection and the blame, and that I was out of touch with reality, like, or that I was doing too much, that I was, because like we were both on workers' comp over here, and like everything, the government and the trust in that, and knowing that, yes, they can have something in place, but then for policies, governments change, it can change. I really wanted to find alternative ways to be able to sustain our family, because I didn't want to be going, we're reliant on a payment, and then they go, tomorrow it doesn't happen. It's like, well, how do you afford a house? How do you help that? So that's where I really started 2019, getting into other like network marketing opportunities, party plan, and all those sort of things to try and build up an income. And that's, I guess, probably when it started. It's like, I love that you're doing all this, but you're not saving a sinking ship. Like, it was like, you're prioritizing everything else, but you're abandoning us. So I was told, on one hand, I love what you're doing, but I don't like what you're doing. Like, you're not helping us. So I guess that was that real push pull, and then again, having a go at everything I did, like not liking me having friends around, not liking a lot of things like that. It was, again, I guess I had to, and because I'm probably one of those people who does like to be the problem solver, does like to make things happen, I took on very much that role. So it was like, well, because you're doing that, you're not prioritizing a family, or you're not doing this, or you're not doing this. But then he wasn't doing it either, which is why we had support workers in the house, and we had others having to help me try and cope. to manage looking after him, the kids in the house, and trying to get better because he preferred his games and his Xbox.
How old was he?
3 years older than me.
I knew you were gonna say that was gonna be one of my questions. You're out here trying to have another source of income, and he not doing anything to hopefully have some level of security if anything goes awry, says you're not helping. Basically, you're wasting your time, and you're not, like, what did he expect you to do for the house? Like, what did he want you to do for him when you're out here trying to, I know you're taking care of the kids. Like, what is it that he's like, where's the disconnect between you having your responsibilities plus trying to bring in alternative income so that you can prepare just in case anything happens, because it happens all the time?
Probably just having to be there more for him, do what he wanted, allow him to have what he wanted is all I can think of. It's like almost wanting the mother. Like he'd often said, even like if you were my mother, I would have been diagnosed earlier.
Diagnosed?
Like as having autism and being on the spectrum like our kids.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Your husband has autism.
Yes.
He wasn't diagnosed with it until later in life as a grown adult.
Yes.
And had the audacity to blame you for his late diagnosis. And is mad because y'all have children with special needs who he's not helping out with. Did he?
Yep.
I'm ignorant to this, so I'm going to ask a question that may sound stupid, but is something like autism, is that genetically passed down, or is it kind of just like it catches who it catches?
They try to say it's not genetic, but most people I know seem to have a family history of it. And you look at patterns and they're going to go, because I was diagnosed as well. So both of us are being diagnosed, but then when we look through patterns, I guess there would be. But over the years, it's like everything. It's been called different things. It's no longer the child who can't concentrate at school or the one who's always jumping around or hyperactive. So I guess it's gone from not being labelled, not being understood, to now having a name and a label.
He said if you were focused more on our family instead of trying to support our family, I was diagnosed soon. It shouldn't surprise me, but it's still so mind-blowing at how much they are incapable, it seems, to take accountability and accept responsibility for their own actions or the lack thereof.
Yep.
This is outrageous. So you leave, y'all divorced now, you leave.
Yep.
But your story is different because you've been through the mostly mental and verbal and emotional abuse. But because of your job, you've been on the other side of the physical abuse. And you said earlier that you believe that y'all aren't educated enough to handle domestic disputes, whether they be far extreme or just a lot of yelling. From a police officer standpoint, or former police officer standpoint, what is your experience with domestic violence and the women and or men who you've assisted through the 15, I mean, you're on the force for 15 years. So through the 15 years, like, what is your experience with that? And what is it that you see patterns of, or like, just fill us in, because we never had anyone to tell us about the side of the officer and the protocol, or this is how how we're told to approach a situation. And if these things aren't happening, then we can't really do anything about it.
Mm. And I guess it's really hard. Like, I have been out for a while, but the same sort of things come up. Like, I know a big frustration of the police is like the person will always go back, but not understanding why they want back, seeing that the cycle, like, you have your honeymoon phase, it all gets better, they make a promise they're not going to be violent, and they're violent. So it's like the roller coaster, you're going up and down all the time. So that was probably one of the big frustrations, especially in physical cases, that they've been beaten up, they'll go back, they get beaten up, they go back. But there's no, and I think it's still the same, there is so little support or education out there to actually help you leave. And as I said, because it's not been something that's just happened once, that you can go, all right, this is enough, I've got to go somewhere. You're so conditioned to not be able to make changes. Usually you've been threatened with the kids. You've probably been told that you're not worthy. Who else is going to want you? Finances are going to be controlled. Trying to find a new house is going to be an issue. You've got limited family friend support. So where do you actually go when you decide that you want to leave? And even the resources and supports that are supposed to be in place are so overworked and overstretched. And even like, if you're needing crisis accommodation here in Australia, boys over 15 can't go with their mum because they're being deemed too old. So I had a 16-year-old son who couldn't go into accommodation with us because he was 16 and there are other women there and they might pose him as a threat. I'm like, he is a child. So there's no supports actually in place. And then it's even worse if you're a father with a child, you're told go to a men's refuge. Where do you take a young teenage daughter to a men's refuge? You can't. So this is probably the big thing about the system. There's so many resources, and I know over here in Australia it's probably very much the same. You're trained very much in everything generally, hence why they're called general duties police. So you don't have extensive training in domestic abuse, domestic violence, trauma responses, coercive control, but you also don't have the time to really be able to sit down with someone and piece together exactly what's happened. It's like, I'm here, what's happened, take a quick statement, this is what's happened, all right, you've said he's beaten you up, all right, we're going to charge him now. So it's a very quick, what's happened in the moment, rather than looking at patterns that have gone on. Like, I know that's with coercive control starting to become more of an offence, but even like a verbal argument, it's like, oh, you've just yelled at each other. Oh, do you want us to do anything? No. And because the workload is so high, it's like, how can we almost get through this as quick as possible? We've got other jobs going in the background on the radio. You've got being checked up after 10, 20 minutes. Are you okay with your welfare checks? Like, it's always go, 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 go. And I don't think it's the case. Like, someone said to me the other day, is it the police that they don't care? And I said, I don't think it's generally that the general police don't care, but they don't have the capacity. They're going through trauma themselves. They're not trauma informed. So if you've got someone going through trauma on an everyday basis at work, regardless of what's in their personal life, trying to deal with a traumatic situation, how can they handle it in the best way possible? They can't. And they're not having that trauma training to understand who is correctly a victim or a perpetrator, because quite often a perpetrator presents cool, calm and collected because they've got a lot to lose. They don't want to be locked up, whereas a victim is pushed to her end, or it could be a male, it's pushed to the end, they're trying to react, why won't you believe me, why won't anyone do anything? They're going to be emotional. So the blame gets turned around and the wrong person is targeted for what has happened. So it's a system that's going on everywhere. And like, I've continued and really stepped up to help others in this space to try and navigate it. And it's getting worse. Like, the number of people that go, I've called AAA, which is our emergency services here in Australia, and it can take 12 hours before they get a response. This is our emergency service in 12 hours, and they might not even get a response. I called AAA in Christmas, and it took 3 days. And their excuse was, apologies, someone got murdered.
Oh, And people think, we just don't know. And like you said, it's the systems aren't supported and they don't have enough support. It's almost as if the police department should have, all police departments, just like they have a TAC unit, they should have, like Law and Order, SVU, they should have a domestic violence unit, like strictly for your training in this stuff, you're understanding, you're learning, you're being educated on it, and then you know what to look for in the perpetrator as well as the victim. And even if they say, even if they're going to go back, you know they're going back because there's a history of psychological abuse that has taken place that causes them to think that it's going to be different the next time, or think that they can't get out. Because I mean, if you don't have a support system, where are you going to go? Like, what do? You end up on the street, or do you stay where at least you have AC and heat in a bed? And to like
exactly.
No, go ahead.
And that's the thing. People go, but it's easy to leave. I said, no, it's not, because our bodies are going through that trauma response. We are so used to going, I know what's going to happen under this roof. What's going to happen when I don't know where he is, when I can't see it, or I can't see it? So our body actually goes into more shock once we do finally leave, because we're on edge more. We don't know where they're going to come from. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't have that support. Whereas if you're under the same roof, you can go, all right, I know he's there. You can spot the signs. You can spot the patterns that are going to happen. So you know, all right, well, if I'm just cool and I just give this response now, I'll be okay. But if you're not under the same roof, you don't know what's going to happen. And then when you've got to share kids and the kids are going back and forward, are they going to return my kids? There's so much that you can't control once you leave, that it's easier to stay, because then you know what you've got to deal with.
That was well said and well put. I've never thought from the angle of, once you get out, there's paranoia. If you get out and he's not in jail, there's paranoia, because the psychological, like everything you've been through mentally and emotionally, you know that they're vindictive, you know that they're petty, you know that they have vengeance on their mind. You just like to live like that out in the open, knowing that you're constantly looking over your shoulder, constantly not knowing when he's going to pop up. Even me, I knew that he was too prideful to really do anything. But I can still remember when I moved out and moved in with my dad, I was still like avoid being in front of the window. Like, because I didn't know if he was going to be driving down. Like, this is wild. I didn't know if he was going to be driving down the street. I was somewhere safe, and still had that paranoia. Now that you bring it up, like, I didn't even want, like, to close the curtains. I would peek around before I close the curtains to see if, or is that the car that I think that he's driving that? Like, wow. And there are some people.
No one talks about that.
No one talks about that. And there are people who have like, they don't have a safe place to be. And I never even thought about the fact you have kids, but at 16, like, and I'm pretty sure it's not just in Australia. I wouldn't be surprised if that's somewhere else. So if a man does leave and he has a daughter, he can't, what do we do? If a woman does leave and she has a son who's legally under the age of adult, but they're not allowed to be in the shelter, what do you do? Because as a mom loves their kid, you're in a, like, that's a catch-22, because I'm not going to let you just be out there in the street or be in some place while I'm in the shelter and we're not together. But then it's like, do we stay together and I expose you to more abuse?
Or are we all homeless together, or do you go back to so many questions. And again, like, that experience is definitely Australia, but I assume it's going to be very similar, because our shelters have such strict criteria. And I understand it's to keep people safe, but this is where our children are getting caught up, and people forget about the kids. The kids are the innocent ones. They didn't choose to be brought into this. They didn't ask for it. But we need to be thinking about, how are we going to protect them? How are we going to change it for them? Because this is just going to escalate, and they're going to continue these patterns if we don't help and support them.
You raised a lot of good points. I'm so glad I asked that question, to think about it from a police perspective, from the point of they're not trained to handle domestic violence situations, or to know the signs of the psychological abuse that has taken place. Because I can imagine empathetically that as a police officer, you're constantly around trauma all the time, to be called back to the same house for the same person going back to the same like it could be annoying, and it's like I'm now putting myself in danger because you're continuing to put yourself in danger, but you haven't been trained to know why she's continuing to put, or he's continuing to put himself in danger. You don't understand mental, oh my goodness, so many conversations need to be had on so many levels. But I'm so glad you brought those points up, because now we can talk about it.
Yep.
Now we can talk about it. What is the advice that you have for someone? I guess for both, because you've seen it from the physical side because you're a police officer, but you lived it from the emotional and mental side being married. What is the advice that you give someone, even if it's in especially if it's in a non-physical abusive relationship? What advice do you give someone on recognizing whether or not what your experience is abuse, and how do you go about getting out?
I guess the advice is, and this is probably where we're really, really grateful where we are now. We have so much access to technology and resources, and it is so much being spoken about. But even like ChatGPT, like our AI technology that we've got, if you've got a concern or not sure about something, ask your ChatGPT, plug it into Google, plug it into Facebook. You're probably going to get an answer. Is this a red flag? Should I be concerned about this? Is this normal? Start asking these questions about how you're feeling, what's going on, to get some feedback. And I'm not saying that ChatGPT, Google, or Facebook is going to give you, and it should be the end of the answers, but at least it's going to start you questioning what you're experiencing, validate what you're experiencing, so then you can start reaching out to professionals, organizations, group to go, this is what I felt. This is what ChatGPT is sort of saying. Where are my next steps? How can I get the support? How can I leave safely? So that we can actually change and break these patterns. And it goes for the same on both sides. It doesn't matter whether or not you're experiencing it or you're subjecting someone else to it. Start asking the questions how you can change. What outcome are you wanting in your life? Are you wanting to keep living like this? Do you like the feeling of working on eggshells? Like, our bodies are meant to be calm and not on edge and not reacting. So if you're getting those sensations in your body with the butterflies, the nervousness, the nausea, the tight throat, the shaking, it's your body screaming at you because we're not listening. So actually listen to these signs and go, why am I reacting this way? What's going on? And I'm not saying that everyone's an abuser, everything is wrong, but it's looking at not just an isolated incident. If it's happened one, go, all right, this has happened. What can we do so it doesn't repeat? But if they are repeating and they're slightly different, or a theme set's coming up that you're experiencing these in different ways, that probably you are experiencing abuse, you are experiencing patterns. So looking at ways that you can get safe, that you can change this for yourself, for your children. So stop ignoring what's really happening. Be brave, be courageous, actually ask the questions. And we've got so many ways to do it now without having to physically ask the conversation. So you can do it in the privacy of your own home. And then once you've got a little bit of validation, you can then start reaching out, and you can start out, and even ChatGPT, I know it's great. It's like, find me a psychologist who does this, find me support who does this. It's going to help you find the resources, which I know we didn't have years ago. So let's use what we've got, the facilities and research, to be able to put things in place to change this.
That's beautiful advice. That and so many people are afraid of AI and ChatGPT and technology, but it's all about how you use it for your benefit, and to even think about, hey, I have a phone, I can download this free app, and now I can seek support. Like, people are saying, I don't know where support is, I don't know how to get in contact, I tried this. You have access now. And like you said, just be detailed. Hey, I need somebody to help me with this. I live here. What resources are available for me? And you can list all of the things that you like. If you don't have, I don't have any money, or I'm such and such, or I'm such and such, you can put that in there, and then ChatGPT gives you information, and then you can follow up and question that information to validate it, and then you've got a starting point.
Yep.
And sometimes that's all you need is a starting point, because you can get lost being lost so easily. Wow, that was good. That was good. So my last question for you, Alyson, is about confidence. What is confidence, and what does confidence mean to you?
So I guess confidence is just starting to believe and know what's going on, believing in ourselves, because no one else is going to believe in you until you believe in yourself. You know how you're feeling, you know what you're doing, and really honoring that, listening to what feels safe, what doesn't feel safe, and asking those questions. How can you do something differently? And then once you've got that, you can start sharing that confidence with others. People will start seeing you shine and notice differences, and then they will start to pick it up, because we can't make anyone be anything or do anything. Like, we can give them skills, tools, and ideas, but ultimately they need to pick it up and choose it for themselves. So it's coming back, choosing it for you. How do you want to present yourself? How do you want to feel? What do you want to do? And start doing that, start believing in it. Like, look in your mirror every day and tell yourself you love yourself. Actually being kind to yourself. And so often we're so easy to give the advice to everyone else. Give it to yourself first, and then you can give it to others.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And that's something that I do definitely. Like, I sometimes I spend too much time. I'm supposed to get in the shower and I'm looking at myself and I'm proud of you. Look at you. You're amazing. You're beautiful. And just having to recondition yourself to believe what's really true, as opposed to what you've been told for however long you've been in an abusive relationship, regardless of what kind of abuse it was. So thank you so much for that. Alyson, y'all, this was good. This was good to have the both sides of abuse discussed, and then why it can be an issue on one side and why it can be an issue on another side. So I just want to say thank you for your transparency. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your willingness to have this conversation and to be open and honest about your experiences, because I know it's going to help somebody in the future. It has truly been our privilege and honor to have you as a guest on the show, Miss Alyson. And y'all know we are out here. I just want y'all to keep showing up, keep sharing your love, keep shining your light, because you are valuable, you are capable, you deserve respect and consideration. And until the next week and the next show, in the meantime, in between time, Miss Alyson, you are absolutely amazing. And to all of our audience members, we gone. Pew, 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 pew. Confetti, 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 confetti.